Alright, so we've got our model here, we've got our roofs, our skylights, our vaults, our courtyards. We need to deal with the topography. But before we start adding all this, we need to create some new levels. So just go into north elevation, and we're going to ignore the picture at this point, because what we know right now is we have the main museum 2 feet above the outside, and we've got 6 stairs there. That gives us a total of a 4-inch rise per step, and so we want to use that math over here rather than the picture. So we're going to have a landing halfway after 3 steps, so that'll be a foot lower, and then the ground will be a foot below that with 3 more steps. So I'm going to take my level 0 here, and I'm just going to copy it down 1 foot. Again, I'm ignoring the picture at this point because it's not going to line up. And then I'm copying that down a foot 1 more time. So what was the first one that I copied, which was 1 foot below, I'm going to rename that, and I'm just going to call it landings. And then the one that's 2 feet below, I'm going to rename that, and I'm going to call it upper topo. And the reason I'm doing that, if you remember, they came in with a bunch of heavy machinery and dug out a bunch of ground to make room for the parking lot on the back side of the building. So your average sidewalk is 6 inches in height. So that means we want our ground to have that sidewalk match up with our basement floor. We need the ground to be 6 inches lower. So I'm going to click on basement. I'm just going to copy it down 6 inches. And now I'm going to rename that one just by double clicking. And if it bothers you how close these are to each other, you can change the scale so that they're easier to read. So right now they're stacked on top of each other, but if I go from 1/8 inch equals a foot up to something like 3/4 of an inch equals a foot, now I can actually read them. So I've got 3 new levels. I've got my lower topography, my upper topography, and my landings. Again, we're using math at this point rather than the picture, but they have not appeared in our project browser. Revit is not smart enough to do that for us yet. So we have to come into the View tab, and right underneath is a thing called Plan Views. And if you click on Floor Plan, anything you've created that is not in your project browser is going to show up here. So you just highlight all of them, click OK. So now all my levels are here. Alright, we've got our new levels. Our drawing, however, happens to be on the main floor. So we're going to have to use this as a reference, and we're going to have to tell Revit that we're actually starting it somewhere else. So I'm going to come into the Massing and Site tab here. And you want to use the second topo solid. The first one has to do with applying it to something that already exists. This one is to create from scratch. So I'm going to click on topo solid, and I'm going to tell it we're actually starting from upper topography. And you can see here, this is one I've already made. Yours will start as 1 foot thick, which doesn't do us much good. We want to go all the way through the basement. So if you edit this and you come into edit structure, you'll need to set the material to earth and the thickness to 12 feet. We're not going to model any of this part where the new building is. We're just going to do where all these trees are and then around each street. I'm going to just kind of start on the edge of the building here. Come straight up to the edge of the street. And our picture cuts off here. We'll just follow it. going to come down until I get to the street on the south side. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And at this point I can just stop and I can use the trim tool, because I have a vertical here and a horizontal here. And now Revit can connect them for us. So now I've got this topography that's made out of earth. It's going to be 12, and it's going to give you this error message that the topo solid and floor overlap. And that's fine. Go ahead and click OK. And you can see if I come in here and I add a section, so I'm going to do a shortcut for sections up here. I'm going to add one somewhere in the middle of the building. And that'll automatically get added in here. You can see if I click my topography, it's about 8 feet high in the basement. So that's not great. Luckily we have a new tool called Excavate. It only works with floors right now. Hopefully in the future it will also work with footings and retaining walls. But we can use, if we come to our 3D and we switch to wireframe so we can see through, I'm going to click on Excavate. And I'm going to just zoom in and get this basement floor. So now it doesn't look like anything's happened here, but if I go back to that section and I click on my topography, it's no longer in the basement. We're not burying people prematurely. So that's great for there, but if you remember, this whole side is a parking lot. We don't have a way to excavate because we don't have a floor. We're going to have to do it a little differently. So I'm going to come back to my main floor. We've already dug out this part. We need to dig out everything around here. Down to this retaining wall, out to the street, and then back up around the building. So the easiest way to do that is just to go into your Architecture tab, Component, Model in Place. We're going to call it Topo Solid again. Even though this is going to be a void, if I created this as a different category, it's a 50-50 chance as to whether Revit would allow us to cut the existing topography. So I'm going to come in here and make it a void extrusion. If you forget and you just do an extrusion, you can always change it after the fact. So I'm going to make it a void extrusion. I'm going to set the work plane to start at our low topography. And since we're using this to cut the existing, I want it to go up above the top. So I can make it huge. I can say it's 20 feet tall. Click apply. And now I just want to start with this top corner. I don't want to accidentally grab this model line. I'm getting this top corner of my column. And now I'm going to eyeball where the end of that retaining wall would be. It's up to you if you want to do this curve here or just go straight. Sometimes you get errors if you do the curve. So I'm going to keep it simple and just do all straight lines. I'm going to come down here, and again I'm looking roughly where the back of that retaining wall is. I'm going to come over, and now I'll see it snap to the edge of that wall. See, if I come back a little, it snaps to the grid. I don't want the grid, I want the actual face of the wall. And now I'm going to come to the corner. And for the most part, we're tracing the outside of the building. The center is a little different because that's that rear entrance. And this is not a floor. This is only a floor on the upstairs level. So when we get to this part, we're going to cut back in to make sure our sidewalk is in the right place. And it's a little hard to see with this picture right now. I'm kind of confusing things. I'm going to try and snap it to this column if it'll let me. Perhaps I'm off down here. Let me see what I had happened here. Yeah, I went past the edge of the column. Now it'll work a lot better. I'm snapping here, and now it's back to tracing the outside of the building. And if this picture is getting in your way, you can always, well, no, because we need it for the retaining walls, so you can't really hide it. You just have to do some zooming in and out to make sure you're in the right place. Alright, so I've got my outline. I'll highlight it just to show you what it looks like. So again, we're following the retaining wall up to the street, and we're just doing this little cutout for the center section. I'm going to come into the 3D view. I'm going to go back to realistic. And I'm going to say, okay, we're done. Now, if I just click OK, nothing really is going to happen. I need to, wait, no, it already cut it. Let's see if I finish the model, if I get an error message or if I have to use cut geometry. Yeah, okay. So, some void forms do not cut anything. So I'm going to say cancel. And now while it's still active, I'm going to come up to this cut geometry tool. First thing I'm going to click is the thing we're trying to cut. So that's the main topo solid. And the second thing I'm going to click is the void extrusion we just made. And so now it's actually done the job we want it to do. Click finish. And we've got this lower area for the parking lot. Alright, the next video we'll talk about how we're going to make this look like grass instead of dirt, and also paint the parking lot. But that's it for the basic topography.